Yeah, black people can definitely be anti-black. Yeah, that goes on.
And is that racism?
Yeah, sure.
Amazing. Have you ever dated a white man?
Yeah. What's the there?
Rest my case.
What was the case? You didn't make the case.
Why would you date the enemy?
I never said white people were the enemy.
You call them racist?
I did not just say white people were racist.
You did.
I
You've been
did
saying
not.
it all day.
No, I did not.
What do you call them?
I said that you can get a variety of different types of white people.
You literally just said the problem is whiteness, but then you say that you've dated a white man.
So fat black women didn't come from white people.
No, fat black women have always existed, and
Right.
fat black women will always exist.
It's funny too, when I read that, I reflected, and when I was growing up, before the Civil Rights Movement again, I don't ever remember seeing fat black women, either old or young. And as a matter of fact, all of my girls, the girls I dated, they had amazing body, little tiny waistline, thin and.
What's this have to do with their character?
No, I'm just saying that slavery, white people didn't make fat black women. Because in the good old days when blacks was in charge of their own life, they knew that fat was a health issue. You know?
I'm actually a little confused how this is even a real debate, but apparently the professor alluded to white people creating fat black women or fat black people. I don't even understand how this is a real debate, but all in all, racism is what created fat black people. Okay, let's see where this goes.
And that's why they live longer too, because they didn't get fat. One of the reasons, right? Because they knew that fat can cause high blood pressure, it can cause other disease. And so even without being told by some white man, they took care of themselves. So I don't even remember seeing fat black women until I went to the city, up to Indiana and Chicago and those places. And that's when those women were fat up there.
Yeah, I mean, you could be any size and be healthy. Being
No,
thin
but
doesn't
being
make you
fat
healthy.
is not healthy.
You can absolutely
That's
be a
why
fat,
those
healthy
women
person.
live long, because they were not fat.
Are you trying to suggest that the life expectancy of black women is decreasing since you were born? Because I feel like that's not true.
Yeah, and those fat ones.
No, there's no evidence of that.
Yes, they do. They have high blood pressure.
No.
They have heart attacks.
No.
They can't walk as fast.
So now,
and they stay hungry.
a lot of this is based on folk medicine, and unfortunately, even the actual medical industry reproduces these ideas. This is false. The whole idea about obesity relies on something known as body mass index, or BMI, and this was invented by an astronomer. Now, how is it possible that an astronomer who was not in any way remotely concerned about health outcomes has invented a tool that we have decided to use for health outcomes? The whole thing is preposterous, but here we are.
I don't know about all that, but I do know that fat black women weren't around in the good old days.
Yeah, they were. Mm-hmm.
And Miss Shug lived to be 100 or something. Miss Evelyn, 90. Miss May, 120.
Big Mama Thornton.
What?
Big Mama Thornton existed when you were growing up. No, there were fat black women. You trying to do me? I've been knowing about that.
Not in Alabama.
There were plenty of fat black women everywhere.
Where? Like where? Not when I was growing up.
Okay, I don't know where you were growing up, how there was no fat people, but fat people have always existed.
Well, I'm sure fat people have always existed, but my point is that fat black women didn't come from racism. And fat black women have not, there have always been fat women, I'm sure, but they were like thinking it was good to be fat. You know, they were.
I didn't say that racism invented fat black women. I never said
You
that.
said slavery did or something, right?
No, I said that race science suggested that there was a connection between fatness and blackness because they wanted to continue to find ways to denigrate black people. So they switched it up. Previously, white people enjoyed fleshy women across race, fleshy white women too. And then, as they were trying to figure out additional rationales to keep black people enslaved, they were like, nah, they got an appetite issue. They eat too much. So that's when white people changed the standard and suggested that fatness was wrong because it was connected to blackness.
So let me get this straight. White people changed the standard of their attraction to keep black people enslaved. And the standard they changed was body fat percentage. You know, I've heard a lot of crazy arguments. I don't want to disrespect her because she has a doctorate, PhD. She studied something. But I've never heard anything like this. I've never in my life heard anything like this. I've watched white people get blamed for a lot of stuff on YouTube. But I've never would have thought it could come to this. I never would have thought. Wow, that's pretty creative, I would say. Very creative argument. Wow.
Well, that's not weird because when I was growing up, black people knew the standard that fat wasn't good. And no white person told them that. They knew fat wasn't healthy. As we know today that fat is not healthy.
We don't know that.
Uh-huh.
And when you say fat, what do you mean?
Fat.
You realize that when there's a variety of different weights, so that a person could be considered a small fat, right, to a super fat. So for you, any amount of fat on the body is wrong?
No. You know fat when you see it.
But right? This is not medicine at all. That's like, you can't be like, nah, I know fat when I see it. No, that's not right.
But you do know fat when you see it, right?
That's exactly what I'm countering. No.
You don't know fat when you see it?
What I know is that there's a variety of different fat people.
I can see you walking down the road or you at some event.
Uh-oh.
And I can see you walking through the event and you see fat women over there. You're thinking, oh, those are fat women over there. You might not say it, but you recognize a fat woman when you see her.
I'm not saying I've never seen fat people.
I rest my case.
Fat people exist.
I rest my case.
How is that your case?
We know fat when we see it.
But that's different from assuming that any type of person that you identify as fat is unhealthy. That's wrong.
No, a fat person is not a healthy person.
That's why I've been asking you, what do you mean when you say that?
They have high blood pressure.
They
have some type of heart disease. They have some type of medical issue.
Okay, we may as well
Their
leave this
legs
alone.
are swollen.
No, none of this is right.
They can barely walk.
Incorrect.
But so I got to ask this. Do you believe racism exists?
Absolutely.
And what is racism?
Racism is treating people differently on the basis of race, which was invented by colonists. And racism is specifically targeting non-white persons because it was invented by white people to maintain white power.
So when black people treat white people differently, are they being racist?
No, they're being bigoted.
Are they being racist toward white people?
No, you can't be racist toward white people.
Why not?
Because whiteness
that doesn't make sense.
No, racism and white supremacy are the same thing. So you can't be racist to white people.
Why not?
You can be bigoted to white people,
but
not
what's the
racist.
difference between bigoted and racism?
If we're talking about the use of words. So racism, when you are being...
It always amazes me. And you know what's crazy, y'all? I just did a video that said the education system isn't leftist. The education system isn't biased towards left-leaning thought processes because the education system is determined by the state. They make the curriculum. However, this is a doctor speaking. It would be hard to argue that argument that I just said, considering she's a professor and she teaches courses. And one day she's going to have white students in her course. And God forbid a white student or someone who just isn't black student goes to her and they say, I'm experiencing this crisis. They're bullying me because I look like this. And she downgrades what they're going through because they're not black. And I hope nothing like that happens. Nothing like that probably won't happen. But her arguing that racism can't possibly affect white people, it genuinely confuses me because racism by definition is just prejudice based off of race. That's all it is. And even having this type of argument is genuinely confusing because a race of people may face more prejudice based off of their race, but that doesn't necessarily imply that prejudice in general cannot apply to the other race. And when you hear this argument, it makes people not take you serious. It makes people hostile towards you because there are white people today who have experienced racism. And also, even in this argument, there are other races other than white and black. There are Asian communities, there are Hispanic communities, there are Native American community. So is there like a hierarchy of racism, or are white people the only people who can't be affected by racism? How do you determine this? Nonetheless, let's continue.
Racist toward another person, that's about power. I don't have any type of institutional power in the United States to be racist toward white people. This is coming from individuals who have the institutional power to cause harm by treating different people of different races differently.
But that doesn't make sense, because black people treat each other that way. They treat white people, when blacks are treating each other that way, are they being racist toward each other?
Yeah, black people can definitely be anti-black. Yeah, that goes on.
And is that racism?
Yeah, sure.
Amazing. Have you ever dated a white man?
Yeah. What's the there?
Rest my case.
What was the case? You didn't make the case.
Why would you date the enemy?
I never said white people were the enemy.
You call them racist?
I did not just say white people were racist.
You did.
I
You've been
did
saying
not.
it all day.
No, I did not.
What'd you call them?
I said that you can get a variety of different types of white people, some of whom I love, but that the problem is whiteness, institutionalized racism.
So the white people that...
You literally just said the problem is whiteness. You literally just said the problem is whiteness, but then you say that you've dated a white man. I'm confused now. I'm really confused. I'm confused. So the only race of people that you determine can be racist happen to be one of the races that you've dated before, that you've had a romantic relationship with before. What is going on?
You love, are they whiteness?
That doesn't make any sense. Well, whiteness is the cultural sea that we are swimming in.
Wow. That's amazing you think that. Do you really think it, or are you saying it because it makes money to say it?
It doesn't make a whole lot of money to critique whiteness. It makes a lot more money to try to be more white.
Why do black kids want to live in black dormitories when they go to white schools, when they don't have to go to a white school, but they go to white schools, and now they want separate dormitories in different schools? Why is that?
Okay. You know how there was slavery, right? Now, the thing with slavery is that when black people were freed, we're kind of partially free, now we weren't giving any resources. So what we're dealing with in this country is there's always been this white power, and then there's been black people trying to figure out how to do for ourselves. It's not the case that black people can have the same things as white people in this place because those opportunities have been denied us, which is to say, you could go to a black school, but there aren't that many. Usually, as a black person being disempowered, you're going to need to go to a white school.
When I was growing up, this was way after the slave thing, right? Black people did better then than they do now. They bought land, they had big families, they got married, they created their own jobs when they needed to. They did everything, and they had whatever they wanted to have, and they didn't compare it to themselves to the white people. Why is it that some kind of a reason the blacks have skipped over that time after slavery and saying that everything is to blame on slavery, when black people were doing much better after slavery and before the the so-called civil rights movement? They did better then. Why can't they continue to do that?
That's really kind of an interesting question, but one of the things that happens in America is that when black people protest, we're given some type of recognition for a short period of time, like during Reconstruction, right? So there was a few years after slavery in which black people were really making gains, entering Congress even, right? Buying lands, all of this stuff. Then these programs start to go away as white people determine that they've given away too much.
That's
and
not
then
why
we
they
fight again. Civil rights movement. Oh, we get some gains. Oh, no, let's
That's
take
not
those
why
back.
they went away. They went away because blacks stopped being individuals and they got into the black thing.
Why would they do that if they were still doing well?
They listened to the civil rights.
But the black community is still relatively doing well. There are a lot of black congressmen today. I'm not talking about 10, 20 years ago. There are black congressmen today, right now. There are a lot of black engineers, not a crazy amount. A lot of black professionals, a lot of black people who make six figures in America. The problem is, and let's be honest, this is the real problem. The problem is relative to what they think white people make, they're not doing good. they don't want to do good on a worldwide standard. They don't want that. They want to do better than white people, or just as good as what they think white people are doing. Because let's not forget, white people don't even make the most money in America. We really think that they're the top of the economic food chain. They're not. Asian Americans make more money than white people. Asian women in America make more money per year than white men. People don't talk about that. They make more money per year than white men on average. But every time this debate comes up, you're comparing yourself to what you think white people are doing in the country. It's not even about doing well. It's about doing better than them. It's like a competition kind of. It's really strange because you're talking about black congressmen that give you a crumb, then they take it away. Sometimes I'm like, are you looking in reality? And this is not an old video. This video was released 9 months ago. This happened in 2024. I'm like, no, there are black congressmen today. There are black people in power today. Black billionaires today. Nonetheless, I'm going to end the video here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. My name is LFR JoJo, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.